All right, it is now 2 o'clock. I'd like to call the Strategic Planning Ad Hoc Committee meeting to order. It's Tuesday, May 2nd. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Livingston. Present. Mackey.
Here.
Newton.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is our approval of minutes from December 15th, 2022. Any additions, deletions, changes to the minutes included in our packet?
Madam Chair.
Motion for approval?
Second.
Second. Madam Clerk?
Livingston.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next is the adoption of the agenda. Administrator Brown, do you have any changes?
There are no requested changes.
All right. Committee, any? Motion for approval?
Second.
Second. Madam Clerk?
Livingston.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item is items for discussion and action. 4A, our strategic planning update. And so before we get started on that item, just wanted to start out by saying the committee, we have been through a process of developing the strategic plan, and now that we have the plan, we kind of wanted to develop a routine schedule of meeting where at least we're meeting once a quarter to check in on the plan, to talk about initiatives and path forward on the plan. Ultimately, we don't want the plan to sit on the shelf, and we want to make sure that the committee and council continue to stay engaged with staff as we work through the strategic plan. And so this meeting today is focused a lot on getting updates. I believe the last update we received would have been at our strategic planning forum back in January. And so want to get updates, but then also give feedback if committee members have any that relate to any of our goals and objectives. So, Mr. Brown, I will hand it over to you. You can kind of start where you want, or if you would like to start the dashboard, but feel free to take it away.
Sure. If we could, what I'd like to do is maybe start with A2, then we can kind of roll into A1, and then finish up with A3.
Sounds good.
So related to A2, and I apologize for our members of council that are here right now, that are here this twice. One of the things I want to just talk about is as we looked at how we operationalize the strategic plan, and we talked about specifically establishing metrics for accountability to make sure that we could systemically focus on some measurables that will help you make decisions as a body and us as an administrative staff. When we were having conversations with our various department heads, one of the things that became apparent is, while we all have various educated backgrounds, whether it's certifications or different colleges or universities that we attended, not everybody was on the same page with, what should be measured, how to go about measuring it, what things would be the things that you as a council would want to see versus, maybe me as an administrator. And so in dealing with those types of situations, what I determined was that this would be a good opportunity for me to intertwine, my focus as a county administrator with the strategic plan that you all have approved. So with that being said, there are really three pillars of, what I'm looking at as a county administrator. You may have heard me talk about these before. That's people, that's processes, and performance. And I believe those all tie into what you all have already approved as a council. And so in dealing with the people side as it relates to establishing metrics for accountability so that we can continue to move forward, one of the things that I looked for is what is a systemic methodology that could be applied so that we could positively affect what it is we're trying to accomplish here. And one of the tools I'm going to use to do that, and part of that's listed in the structure of the document that you have before you, is I'm going to use NACO's high performance leadership tool to really help unify us in understanding a basic platform for how we can establish metrics for Richland County as department heads and leaders. And then the second component of that is they also have a tool called Leading Analytics, which again, I think will help provide a methodology that's specific that we could use that will unify what we're trying to do so that we're not all over the place. So I just kind of wanted to start by saying that to you because I think it was a good eye opener for us. And so right now we have 10 department heads who are already been enrolled in the current cohort. I recently finished, and you had assistant to the county administrator recently finished. So I do believe the program is a good program. Besides, what you read and heard about, went through it myself, and I do think it would serve as a good base for us to build from. And again, that's the first part that we'll run everybody through, and then the second part is what they call leading analytics, which is specific to understanding metrics and how to use those to provide data to decision makers so that they can make then good decisions. So, as we talk about just kind of establishing those, I did want to reach out and share that with you. And so you'll hear some of that again from me on tonight with the full council, but I wanted to share that with you. So really before I move on and look at what you have in your briefing document, are there any questions you have about that, or whether they're comments or questions that's concerning it to that methodology that I think would be good for us to establish?
I do have just a question. So you mentioned we have currently 10 department heads that are enrolled. Is that all of department heads?
They were all department
Okay.
heads.
Meaning we don't have any department heads waiting to enroll at
No.
another time? That
No,
is everybody.
no. We will have some others waiting to enroll. I'm sure they couldn't give me all the room in the program, but they did allow me to do 10.
Okay.
And so we will then have about less than 6. But the idea would be to first start with the department heads and then take that, so we can continue to move forward, but then take that also to the management level. So Richland County previously was working in partnership with other governmental entities and put together a program where they were using Midlands Tech. And not saying that that's still not going to happen, but I thought that this was something, because what happens with this particular program, it is online. You keep all of the resources. And there also provides, metrics where they're communicating with me as the supervisor. So we can kind of track all of that, and it kind of really goes into the idea of keeping track. So it will be a tool that can carry beyond, just the coursework that they're sitting with. They can go back and keep it as a resource. And I thought that would be, very helpful as well, because sometimes you get a lot of information in the program and you just can't keep it all, you need to be able to go back and revisit from time to time.
Thank you. I would just request to keep the committee updated as they complete and as we continue to enroll new people. I would love to be able to hear about the success of it.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Find something beneficial to the colleagues in the committee, let us know too.
Yes, sir.
We might need a little skill and training every now and then.
Understood. Yes, sir.
All right. Hearing no other comments or questions, then Mr. Brown, you can proceed ahead to your next document.
So in your packet, and I'm showing maybe it's page 9 of 11, where it begins to talk about just some of the updates, and it breaks down some of the planned objectives under certain goals. What you have here is our attempt to show you in a very specific way how we have implemented some of these goals, begin to track them. But again, this does not mean that these are all the things that we're going to be looking to accomplish, but we want to show movement for the program. So I'm showing under 4.1, I just talked a little bit about the idea, which that objective is to establish plans and success metrics that enable smart growth. And so again, establishing the idea of what metrics should we be capturing that demonstrate that and what that looks like. 4.2 coordinates the department to prepare for planned growth in the areas by providing water, sewer, and roads in necessary locations. You may be aware that recently we received 2 awards. So one, the county council awarded funding through American Rescue Plan Act dollars for sewer services and water. We also, which was related to the water tank project. Then also additionally, you may have seen reported that Richland County was one of the counties who have been awarded $10 million from the South Carolina Rural Infrastructure Authority for the expansion of the Eastover wastewater treatment plant. So that $10 million will be utilized for that expansion, and that goes right into the idea of, how are we trying to make sure that we're dealing with our water and sewer needs. There are certainly other projects that we think would be important to that, but these are just two that have been implemented since the time that we did the strategic plan. And then also under creating excellent amenities and facilities, I think you all know we've been talking about the various organizations that we're trying to support through better facilities. That includes our 911, that includes our probation, pardon, and parole, that includes our current departments that represent state services, so your DSS, your DHHS. So let me stop with acronyms. The Department of Social Services, the Department of Health and Human Services, those are the departments, and then the Department of Health and Environmental Control are all agencies that we're providing space for currently, that we believe that as we provide this new and updated space at the Columbia Place Mall would allow for a better service accessibility to citizens in Richland County by being in a central location that has not only vehicle accessibility, but it has mass transit accessibility through bus routes. And so we think that's very important, and the council has certainly funded that. We think there's some other conversations there to be had, but we won't get into that until council decides. We also talked about providing equitable living and housing options. The council right now is trying to consider what it will do to affect affordable housing in our community. And while you have allocated a pot of funds, the decisions have not been finalized as to how you will utilize those funds, but you have allocated funding for that purpose. So again, just a couple of highlights to show that since the strategic plan was voted on and kind of put in place, here are some of the things that have taken place so that folks can follow and see that this is not just a document that's on the shelf. Talking about achieving positive public engagement, this is certainly an area that we really want the citizens just to really come to us and feel like their organization is representing them well. But what we tried to do is take an internal look and share information that we believe is indicative of the steps that we've taken. So in addition to the strategic plan itself, which I think is a method of positive public engagement, showing that the council is focused on what it's trying to do, it has specific steps it's trying to take, and is sending a direct correlation between how it spends its money and how it plans its budget to what is listed in the document. I think that's a positive message in itself. But then within that, I think the county has had some wins that we are happy to share with the community as we try to tell our own story.
Mr.
Go
Brown,
ahead.
I'm sorry, real
Go-
quick.
please
Before
go.
we go to goal 5, I just want to
Sure.
stop for a minute and see if colleagues had any questions, thoughts on goal 4 and the update that was provided as it ties to some of the initiatives in the strategic plan. Ms. Newton, you're recognized.
Thank you, and thank you for that update, Mr. Brown. Just to make sure I'm on the right page, my understanding is that we can also expect to see some further recommendations as part of our budget process in the comprehensive plan, in the CIP plan, the capital improvement plan. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. You will see some recommendations or opportunities from the administrator to the council. And then the idea will be the council will take a vote on that, and that will further define our strategic focus as it relates to capital improvement.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. I had questions related to 4.4.
Okay.
And so we talk about council currently considering, I want to make sure I'm thinking of the right thing. That is currently what the COVID ad hoc committee is considering based on that ARPA allocation. Is that what this is, or is there something else I'm missing?
No, that is currently in the hands of the coronavirus ad hoc committee. And we'll be having a conversation through that committee. But the idea there, and I can just say it here as council members, the best step forward is for you to tell us what you want to do and then authorize us to utilize necessary funding to affect that, and just leave it at that. And then that way, we can take the best path for the funding that is available. That funding in that broad category could be funding that's, currently in one part or the other. But we think if you just say that and leave it to council to the staff to execute, that will keep us, that will be the flexibility that we need to do what you want us to do. We just need to know how the council wants to address affordable housing, and then let us go.
So with that, I guess my only additional comment would be, as we continue to think about this as a whole, I think what we're doing with that allocation is good. I do want to think about a plan overall after the allocation. What does this look like for the years to come? And do we have a plan to talk about and identify funding for affordable housing after we spend the allocation? What does that mean to us? Not just for that pot of money, but what do we want to do about it overall? And not saying, we had to set aside money now, but I think for this initiative, would like it to also be some type of plan, or at least a goal to come up with a long-term plan.
Sure, and I think just as you talk about that, and I know we're dealing with one pot right now, so we don't want to get ahead, but maybe the ideal, depending on how the council sees affordable housing and its ability to affect it, you might want to make that one of the areas in which you invest in, like you invest in people within the organization. So that might be something where you, on a ongoing basis, say, each budget year we're going to do X, amount of dollars, for that purpose, whether that's a specific investment tool or whether that's a specific focus where you're going to select a community organization and you rotate that so that there's not one particular organization. There are multiple types of things to do, but the idea there would be, if you see that as a future investment, then that's kind of how you would track something like that. So that there's an ongoing mechanism.
Thank you. All right, I think everybody's good to go to goal 5 now.
Okay, under goal 5, that's achieve positive public engagement. And I know many of you already know this, but for the purpose of those who may be watching us on the internet, who may not have gone through our strategic plan fully, goal 5 is a goal that's designed to allow the county to have better engagement with the public, to bring them in and connect them more fully to the things that are going on in the county that they might not be aware of. There have been some very big announcements here recently related to the county's successes in certain areas, but we want to communicate that there is a more fulsome process of success throughout the county. So in our communications department, which since the strategic planning has been formulated, we've certainly hired additional staff in that department. In this budget process, we've increased funding as well as we've provided, even currently now, more resources to the department so that the department can have the necessary personnel as well as resources to address this goal and this desire. And as we continue to mature, we'll determine whether or not there's additional resources required. But as it relates to telling our own story, you may have seen the county be a little bit more active on our social media sites. We do have current media buys to communicate, the different changes that the county is going through with, for example, our fireworks ordinance. You may have recently seen some of that. That's a combination of work that's done both by our internal staff and some with our consultants related to some of those resources that we're putting out there. There's been a lot of community partners that we've kind of spotlight in their collaboration with the county. You have maybe seen that in our calendar. You may be seeing that in some of the programs that the county has had on here locally. Actually, as a matter of fact, this month, mental health awareness, we're partnering with our mental health provider, again, trying to engage both our community, both from a standpoint of things that are concerning to us, but things that are concerning to the populace in general. And what you will see here in these particular sub-objectives, one of the things that we really haven't had an opportunity to talk about over the course of all the progress is, 5.4, we talk about complete and celebrate penny projects to create excitement in the community. We've certainly talked about some very recent developments, Green Street Bridge opening, Bull Street, Blythewood Road widening, and North Main Street opening. But there's been a plethora of projects that have been completed during the time of the penny that may not have gotten their time to shine. And so we'll be looking to go back also and recapture some of that information to make sure folks understand how effective that program has been for the citizens as it relates to road infrastructure, greenways, and sidewalks and things of that nature. So this is a developing area, but we did want to try to highlight a couple of things that we think have been happening since the strategic plan has been adopted, to show that this is a live and living document and not just something that the council went through and we haven't been working towards. So I'll pause there, Madam Chair, and take any questions and certainly any feedback related to Goal 5.
Other than, I'm excited about what's been happening with that particular objective. I hope we'll just continue what we're doing regarding partnerships and collaboration with other groups and organizations. I think that's one way for folks to really know what we're doing. All, but whether it's Red Cross or whomever else, I think if we continue to do a good job partnership with the different entities in the group, help us really look good and let folks know what we're doing.
Yes, sir.
Which one was it? I think 5.1 or 5.2, I guess are kind of the same when you talked about it. But is there a way, and this might go to the dashboard conversation that comes later, but there is a way so that we are able to at least track kind of what success looks like when we talk about, telling our story and what we've done and getting the message out there, so that at least we can say and show it per se, or at least council knows what that looks like as a whole.
I think so, and I'm trying to remember not to pull up the plan to see if when we were talking about evidences of success, if we had that specifically for the positive public engagement section. And so what I'll do, if you don't mind, we'll take any additional questions. We'll get Abi Deshpande, Budget Director, to kind of show you the current state of the dashboard. And I'll look at the plan to see if we listed, at least internally, what evidence of success would look like as it relates to positive public engagement. And if we didn't, that's probably something we probably really need to establish from the council standpoint, the committee standpoint, as to what does that look like from your perspective, as you're the ones that are out there engaging with the public, and the public is talking to you about whether or not they feel like you've been successfully representing their needs as a body.
I think, we talked a little bit just about communications plan and engagement strategy as a whole. And so I'm not sure if there were specific numbers. I think it was more so we needed to develop a plan. And I think from there, we were going to kind of come up with what those maybe numbers or KPIs would be that then we could actually track on the dashboard.
Okay, then I will take as a takeaway to provide to this committee before the next meeting some metrics that we believe may identify evidences of success, and you can give me, comments or feedback, or you can provide metrics that you're familiar with that may reflect that, and we can start seeing what we have in line to track that. So that should be relatively easy to do.
Ms. Newton, you're recognized.
Thank you. And listening to this, I have two comments, and I'm not sure if they both fit here. But as it relates to the fostering positive public relationships, a lot of the items that are in this bullet point are about things that we do with external organizations. But I do think that there are a lot of good things that we do and can do internally, and specifically too, there are reasons why you might not want to resuscitate this program whole hog as it was in the past. But the Richland 101 program was, I don't know, and maybe it's one of those things that you love it more when it's gone than people loved it when it was there. But that was a program that really allowed people to understand what their local government does, which is one of the big challenges that we have. I'm sure we've all been at a meeting where someone asked us to do something and we're like, that would be a lovely thing for someone to do, but state law doesn't let us do that. Whereas there are many times where we don't get phone calls about the things that are actually in our wheelhouse. And so I think that, inviting people to understand those different departments was really excellent. However it is that staff deems to do it, if they think it was valuable, but it's certainly a program that I miss. And then also, and maybe it's just me, maybe because my calendar fills quickly, but just ensuring that when we're promoting some of those internal programs that we do, that we maybe have a longer lead time on some of those programs. There are things that we've done, for example, programs for neighborhoods about how they can start nonprofits and talking about some of those things. Maybe I didn't check frequently enough, but I think that making sure that we have plenty of runway in terms of letting people know about some of these great programs. I often talk to people who miss those. And again, it could be totally user error on my part, but while I think it's great to shine light on our partners, there's just a lot of good things that we're doing that I would love to see us amplify.
Yes, ma'am.
And then looking at 5.4, I think we have done a great job with the ribbon cuttings, the grand openings. It's been great attendance. We've gotten, I think, additional exposure and people being educated and informed of, hey, this has actually been completed. It looks great. But I would like, I know you mentioned talking about completed projects. Definitely agree with that. Would like to also just make sure that we are looking at the county holistically, because the Penny Project is in every single person's district. And I think making sure that we're telling the stories, that we are showcasing all the districts of where Penny projects have happened, whether it is, paving a dirt road or sidewalk. But for some communities, that dirt road and sidewalk is like, it changed their life. And I can say that specifically in my district, there's been a dirt road paving. These folks have waited for 7 years, and having that dirt road finally paved really means something to them. And so if we could make sure we're highlighting the entire county and projects, however big or small, I think is great too.
Let me respond to that.
Mr. Livingston.
When we talk about celebrating the Penny Project or any other project, now, one of the things that I noticed was a little bit different that I thought was extremely beneficial at the onset of the Penny, at that time when there were projects being highlighted. There's an effort to engage key community persons and give them information and have them to talk with folks in the community. And what you had at those events was you had the press, which is really important, but you had a lot of those community folks there. And you even had one from the community speaking on behalf of the community, which really got good coverage. I think those kind of things are very, very helpful if you can have some key community folks at those events to highlight what we're really doing. And then their, community folks will see them and even helps us a lot more.
Okay.
Recognize Ms. Newton.
Sorry, and one more thing that occurs to me, and if we are too far in the weeds, let me know. I know that we're a policy body, but the Penny is one of our most critical programs. One of the things that I would love for staff to consider is, I think it's great to celebrate the wins of the Penny, big and small, we have to do that. But similar to with Richland 101, I think that there's still a lot of people who actually don't understand what the Penny is and what the Penny is supposed to do, as judged by the number of people who ask me, why isn't the Penny fixing this road? To which I have to say, sometimes the Penny was never going to fix this road because it's not on the list. And I think that sometimes we take it for granted that people understand. And I think that there are probably ways to provide context around the Penny, not just, celebrating a win. Like here we're doing Blythewood, for example, but maybe, this was one of 10 that were approved by the voters in a referendum, or whatever the case may be. I just think there's general opportunities for Penny awareness. It's not a celebration, but it helps people know what they're celebrating.
Thank you, Ms. Newton. I think that's something just overall we had discussed with Goal 5. I think achieve positive pub engagement, I think, has many pieces. I think there's the education component of, in general, a lot of what county government is and what we provide to residents, but also education on programs that we have that benefit our residents. And then I think there is the piece that is awareness and the partnering with community organizations. And then there's the other piece where we just really need to get out the pure facts of a situation. And so I think making sure we're hitting all those different prongs when we look at different projects is really going to be what improves our engagement overall. And I guess, depending when we get to dashboard, Mr. Brown, then we can kind of talk about, with these items, kind of what it looks like for a timeline and moving forward on some of these as far as tracking to tell if we are ahead, behind, or on track.
Sure, yes, ma'am. So I appreciate the information. That's really important, and in my mind, that's really what the benefit of the committees are. They allow you to get a focused understanding of really the direction that we're going in. And then for this particular committee, that's even more important because the idea is the strategic focus of the county. And so I appreciate that because that's how we'll work, is based off of that feedback that we get. So really the next section really kind of all ties into back with what you all were just discussing. And as we talk about the dashboard and a mechanism to begin to establish, how the county basically does more than talk, right? There's a tool, and that tool is designed to help be accountable, but also to help communicate that we have an expectation. And that expectation is not one that we just come to work and that we're just here, but that we add value to the community through excellent work. And so the dashboard that you're going to see, again, while it's not, complete in full, again, it represents our continued step, towards the success of excellence. And so goal 6 that talks about establishing an operational excellence. Certainly there are a couple of things here that we highlight that you'll hear throughout the budget process in talking about salaries, establishing competitive salaries as an objective. The county has done a number of things related to that. Most recently, there has been, certainly the cost of living adjustment that the county did, and then you currently have a compensation study that's specifically dealing with how we pay individuals that will allow you to, again, have an opportunity to make a decision to invest in people. And we look forward to providing you that information. And talking about investing in employees in county development, again, the idea there is how do we put not only dollars, but resources, whether that's equipment, technology, something of that nature, or new systems in the hands of our people so that they can serve the public better. 6.3, a modernized technology. A lot of the funding that you all approved through the American Rescue Plan Act went towards really taking Richland County from a very paper-driven organization. And in some instances, some areas we are still, and we're trying to move out of that to a more technology-driven system, which allows citizens in some respects to engage in a way that allows them to get their work done without them having to physically be available. We still have physical connectivity to citizens. People can still come down right now to 2020 Hampton to take care of their business, but they don't have to. They can utilize technology to carry out their business. And so, again, I'll just let you look over. I won't go through each of those because, again, each of those are areas that we're kind of generally talking about. But I did want to give you an opportunity just to have a discussion about your thoughts on establishing operational excellence and some of the things that you're looking for us to focus on as a body.
Well, I think one of the big ones that you hit on in 6.3 is the new county website. And so can you talk a little bit more about that and how council members can be involved or kind of know about the actual timeline of the county website?
So I have not gotten an update from the work group on the timeline, but I know the work group is meeting. And the idea behind the structure of this particular endeavor is for folks to be able to engage with the county like you and I are talking now, but to use a different medium to do that. And so You do have a representative of county council that's connected to that work group. So I think probably the best mechanism is, besides talking to the administrator, really would be to channel that conversation to the representative for council that's on that work group, and kind of have that information be succinctly flow through that individual so that we're not on different wavelengths from different members. And so that is Ms. Newton. So not that, in case people don't know.
Thank you for your service, Ms. Newton.
Ms. Newton is serving on that, so I would just ask that you utilize that as a mechanism. And then, yes, we really are excited about the project. Ultimately, we want it to work. And right now, what you have is a lot of folks with a lot of desire to see something be successful. We're just trying to take it through a pathway that leads to that success. So at the end of the day, we have a tool that, again, connects people to the county without them necessarily having to pick up the phone and contact me. They can, but you also can potentially go to our website and feel like you're dealing with a person, if you will. You feel like you can get from point A to point B without a lot of extra effort. So that's the process right now that I think the work group is going through. One of the things I think the work group, before it was founded or got together, is in our process of working with the county, a lot of times what we do is we kind of bring you a packet of information and say, kind of tear it up and tell us what you want, because it seems to be a better mechanism for us to move forward with things than to come with just a blank slate and say, let's build it from the ground up. And so we understand that if we have something that we've presented, that that presentation is designed to move the ball forward. It is not an end goal. It is not, here's what staff is saying and you either like it or you don't. It's, we're not coming to the table with nothing, because that generally doesn't lead to a very successful outcome in a short term. So just understand that generally anything we present is presented in that format, and we certainly understand changes being made. So I don't have any more direct information right now, Ms. Mackey, but I know the work group met yesterday, and I did plan on finding out, what are we going to be doing and what's the timeline for that? Because I know the council and really the strategic plan is going to want to know, where are we in moving this forward?
So to clarify, 6.3, you say that all these projects are under the ERP implementation, and December 16th is the goal. Is the new website included in this date as well, meaning that by December we will be ready with the website? Is that at least under this same time plan, or is the website in a different time plan than the other ERP?
Again, I don't want to misspeak, but I would think, being that it's,
Okay, don't misspeak.
yeah, I don't.
So
yeah,
my
I
other
just-
question
I don't
would be-
think. I don't think December the website will be live and up. I don't think so.
Okay, so I would definitely like to know when, because if not December, I would hope that it's very, very close to December. And then the other piece is, I know Ms. Newton is going to represent council well on this committee, but I would just like to say, I think the website, I hope that it would tie in with Goal 5 and our communications folks, and that we really are looking at creating a website that the public can utilize, and it is user-friendly for the public. And that's even in, how we write content on the website, the clickability, the visual appeal. I think if we're making sure we're tying that in with the communications group and Goal 5 too, when we look at development of it. Mr. Livingston?
Yes, and I guess you don't have to give me a specific answer right now, but, I'm just concerned about how much do we know about the utilization of our website by our citizens? Do we have a keen idea on that? I think it's important for me to know that later on. What are we doing, or what can we do to increase the usage of it as well? And in part, I'm speaking for the mature generation like myself, because every now and then.
You said
when I
mature?
When I pull out my calendar here, Ms. Mack always remind me that I'm holding y'all back when it comes to technology.
No, sir, your calendar always boots up faster and it never crashes, so you're okay.
I have it on my phone too, but I got to keep it both places. Thank you.
Ms. Newton, any update you'd like to give us as it relates to the work group?
Sure. Briefly, the vision of the work group is to have an interdisciplinary committee that really represents different parts of the county and people who have access different places. And so because we are a government agency, there has to be a procurement process. And so from a timeline perspective, while certainly anything is possible, just based on my professional experience, given that it's May, I think a December timeline is frankly unrealistic, which isn't really a county thing, it's just a process thing. And so I know one of the things that I would hope, and I'm gonna make eye contact with our procurement person, lest I say something that I shouldn't. But from a best practice perspective, as it relates to websites with organizations like ours, nobody just comes and creates a website. There's a period that has to involve, I'm just still looking over there, that has to involve, stakeholder engagement and really understanding the problem that they're trying to solve and some of those data points that Mr. Livingston had. And so even if you took the procurement process out, Richland County is going to have to guide a little bit what our timeline is, but I would hope that as an organization, we would give whoever the successful vendor was an opportunity to manage a process that gets them all the inputs that they want. So the committee is meeting, it's talking about what the needs are. The committee will ultimately draft an RFP that will then follow all of our procurement processes, and I'm happy to provide any regular updates to council that they would wish. We're just kind of still at the starting gate a little bit, and so there's not much more to report at this point.
Thank you.
I did not
for-
get yanked off from procurement, so I think that's okay.
No. Thank you. I think Mr. Brown, whenever you get the timeline, that would help, I think, expectations, because I know for myself, I thought we were a little further along. So I think I understand everything you're saying in the process, but I think that information would help all council members probably change their expectations, because we thought we were a little bit further along than that.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, if you wanted to get just a quick update on the dashboard, we'll move to that, and then try to leave some space for any other thing you might want to cover under number 3.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and the members of the committee. Abhi Deshpande, Director of Budget. So in terms of the update on the dashboard, as Mr. Brown mentioned that, there has been a lot of behind the curtain work has been done, and most of the updates have been on the qualitative nature rather than the quantitative nature. So also, there is a part which also Mr. Brown mentioned about the education component, and that's where I think we have a lot of work to do with the department heads. And with that, also, we are actually going to seek the technical assistance from our software provider, Envisio, and where they can work with the department heads in terms of, you mentioned about the KPIs, and that's definitely a valid point where we need to develop more KPIs in terms of developing and showcasing those KPIs on the public-facing dashboard. So far, the work has been more on, as I mentioned about the updates are more on the qualitative basis, so they are reflected in the report rather than the dashboard format. And I can give you an example about one of the reports about some of the similar updates what Mr. Brown just gave it to you about goal number 4, 5, and 6, and how does that translate to the actual report format. However, before that, like I showed that report to you, in terms of the timeline wise, I do feel very positive that we will have a public facing dashboard where we can do some KPIs on using this software or using our website. if not like end of this fiscal year, but at least for the first quarter of the next fiscal year, we'll have a public-facing dashboard. I'm very, very confident on that. We definitely, in terms of the timeline or where you talked about some of the, are we behind, ahead, or where we are at in terms of the progress-wise, definitely, now onwards, like we are almost, from my office perspective, once this budget season is done, we're basically, this would be the main focus for my team and I. So basically, Oscar and I will be actively working on this project. So we are right now, but it will be definitely a primary focus. And so in that case, definitely we'll have a lot more progress to show you and report to you if you are meeting in the next quarter meeting. With that, I will quickly show you the report, the quality report that how would that look like? So basically, you have seen this report in the past, in the previous meeting, and also the strategic planning forum this year's in Charleston. So in that case, so as you can see that there are last updated dates. Some dates are, still means they were updated in the January, but as well as if we look at let's select for this initiative 4.1.3, we basically recently updated today. So that will show you the same exact qualitative update what just Mr. Brown mentioned to you. On that, we feel that it's on the track. And again, in terms of the progress percentage, and that's a very subjective progress meter. So based on the owner of that goal and that initiative, we feel that we are almost 40 to 42% on track for that particular initiative. So the similar kind of logic is for all different goals and objectives. I'm going to just switch to the another report, which basically just shows the most updated goals and objectives. So these are the initiative 4 as well as 5, objective 5, and initiatives, some of the initiatives related to 6. Those are the most updated updates that you could find in this report. Again, the same thing, the updates are similarly what Mr. Brown just mentioned to you, more of a qualitative nature rather than the quantitative nature. Hence, there are no KPI dashboards related to these updates. Again, the same thing. We feel that most of these objectives are on the track, and the progress is transcribed a very subjective way based on the interpretation of the goal owner. And yes, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, Ms.
Thank you. And you may have said this. I understand that there's a lot of behind the scenes work and you're testing out things and kicking the tires and setting up the technology. For right now, is your internal team the only team that's making these updates to see how it works, or are there other departments who are also providing input?
So right now, it's these updates are made by my team internally. And that's where, now we last couple of weeks back, we are talking with our the provider of this software, where we'll be engaging their technical assistants to get more engagement from the department heads or the goal owners. And in that case, my team will go on the back seat, and then the goal owners will drive the process, basically.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else? I didn't want to.
No,
I didn't know if I cut you off. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much, Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I would, I guess, hearing the timeline, knowing that it would be probably next year before it launches, is there something else that we can create temporarily, that at least as we're having quarterly meetings, I think the update you provided today is good, but we ultimately have 6 goals. And so I think so the body can see as a whole where we are on things. Of course, it doesn't need to be as detailed as a dashboard, but I think something to be able to look at holistically where we are, if we can develop maybe some table or something.
We can do that. I think we can do that with the same format that you have here, but not make it as detailed with the specific objectives. So yes, ma'am, we have the ability to do that, and we will do that.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee regarding the dashboard? Good.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Mackey, just, you mentioned about the next year, but I was meaning like next fiscal year, so which will start in the July, so from the very
Thank you.
first
See,
year.
thank
So
you
not
for
the
those-
next calendar year.
I
I'm sorry
appreciate
about
that. Thank
Yeah.
you so
Yeah.
much
And I knew
for
it.
tempering my expectations, because I would have held you to January. So thank you. See how easy that is? You just communicate expectations
I-
are met. Yes.
So I'm sure, I think, what you just mentioned about the having more concise form of updates, definitely that can happen within the first quarter of the next fiscal year, yes.
Okay. So just to clarify, the updates, by our next quarterly meeting, I would like to see a template that has all the goals listed and an updates. Right. Anything else from the committee on dashboards? Good. Okay, well, I think we are good for overall updates and check-in. Item 4.3, we've looked at a lot of our objectives, but I wanted to leave this time on the agenda for the committee. If there are any members that wanted to speak on any particular goal or initiative in the strategic plan that maybe we didn't cover, that you feel is very important and would like to see it get started sooner rather than later, I wanted to make sure we had that time to be able to cover all of our goals and objectives. So I leave that open to see if there's something, an objective or initiative that you didn't hear about today that you were really passionate about starting sooner rather than later. Please speak now, or at least email myself or the administrator so we can make sure to add that into the plan before our next quarterly update meeting. Ms. Newton?
Thank you. I don't really have any questions. I would just say thank you to the staff for embarking on this process. I know that there's culture shift, there's process shift, and then on top of that, there's a lot of elbow grease. So just thank you to everybody.
All right, so next steps, 5, I think we've covered that as far as Mr. Brown has several action items, so I think we're good there. And then item 6, adjournment.
So moved.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Livingston,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.